I mean, Dr. Theo Acheampong, so I get a sense that the consensus is where the country is right now, with the current debt restructuring that we're seeing, the political cost to the NPP is in significant vote lost, possibly in the 2020 elections. Does that automatically mean a gain or a win for the NDC?
Not necessarily, of course. The NDC needs to also show us what they are offering in terms of policy alternatives. Number two, also the election is what, another 1.5, 2 years away. So the government still has a little bit of room, but not too much, to be able to attempt to change the course around. But remember that in terms of the optics and the politics, it was the same administration that touted itself as being, quote unquote, competent managers of the economy. That we saw a series of, public lectures here and there in the lead up to the 2016 election, particularly when there were, serious economic challenges with the economy, doomsday, etc. So basically, they pitched themselves as being able to manage the macro situation much better than others. But number two, to the point that we're able to safeguard your investments and safeguard your savings. And what we've seen in the last couple of years really is that that hasn't materially actually played out. And it's not just even the issue of the debt restructuring, but if you're talking of inflation in excess of 50 something percent, almost, we haven't seen this in over 2 decades, right? We're talking about other issues. And remember that the MPP, attempted to restructure or clean up the financial sector. Obviously, also because of the political consequences associated with that, in trying to safeguard middle class savings and middle class investments. And then Dr. Acheampong made a very important point that these are not just ordinary middle class folks like you and I. On average, you have about everyone supporting between 3 and 5 people extra, just the way of our social system is set up here. So if I'm going to be losing my source of livelihood, one, and number two, the economy is further going to bite me, then of course I would show or protest that in terms of votes. But like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that people would automatically switch into voting for the NDC. You might see some of them actually staying out and not voting, at all. Reference being what happened with the MPP in 2008. If you recall, at the latter part of 2008, oil prices had started coming down, and people, were saying, President Kufuor reduced price of petrol. All of those things never happened. It was actually, if I recall, just 2 weeks to the election before prices started coming down, and people never forgave the MPP then for it. Certainly, in my household, or some people that I lived with around the time at Dansoman, they just didn't vote, right? They didn't see themselves going to voting for the NPP, the NDC, the alternative, but then they stood out. So you're likely to see more sort of apathy in that sense, rather than them, voting for the opposition. But the game is squarely in the hands of the NDC to also show Ghanaians what sort of other policy alternatives and approaches they would, provide to address the problems here.
Dr.